Hello, I'm Dr. Chris Gast, and I'm taping a series of videos to help people like myself who have suffered with fibromyalgia for maybe a few years, or like myself, over 20. I've made notes because, as you all know, if you have fibromyalgia, sometimes your brain doesn't click with the right names or the right dates right away. They've labeled it brain fog, but it's just one of those things I think we all have to deal with, although mine is substantially better. So I just wanted to try and tape these very short at first, because I know for most of us we don't have a whole lot of time to spend looking at anything that's recorded lengthy. So the first part I'll try and just get through as fast as I can, my experience with my fibromyalgia, and then move on to the last 4 years of my life. I think I first began to suffer with symptoms that would be considered to be fibromyalgia probably in my mid to late 20s. I may have had symptoms before that, but I think they were always brushed off as being allergies. When I was in my mid-20s, I was a medical student and then a resident, and I'd had my first child, who is now 26, and I had migraines, severe migraines, even had the ocular visual changes that go along with the migraines, but had probably 4 to 5 a week. So 4 or 5 nights of the week I would be on the couch after work. Thank goodness he was little back then, because I could lay on the floor and that would still satisfy his interaction. But it was a difficult time trying to get through that and also learn everything I needed to learn. From there, I had my second child 4 years later, and after that I really began to experience the first levels of chronic fatigue. I think the first one lasted like 6 months, and I had been an avid exerciser and just quit exercising. I didn't do anything for 6 months. When I finally kind of came out of that, I began to exercise again, and I have done everything you can think of besides downhill skiing as a form of exercise, all of which now I think was probably a coping mechanism for the lack of sleep, which was only given to me when I had totally abused my body. I even got to the point where my son, who was doing scenario woods paintball, I would play with them and be in the field for 12 to 13 hours with 50 pounds of gear and bruises from head to toe, and that would be a good day because I would sleep that night. After that, I kept continuing to kind of struggle, began to have more and more trouble with sleeping. All of us have been through the restless legs to restless body to just not being able to sit still or stand still. You always had to be moving. And of course, it was usually between midnight and 4 in the morning. I think my longest day of going, or my longest period of going without sleep, was like 12 days. And that was a really serious episode in terms of just my ability to focus and stay awake. After that, I began to have just increasing pains. Of course, we all have suffered with the chronic pain, the trigger points, you know, where my daughter would come up and touch my elbow lightly with a little finger when we were shopping to get my attention, and it would be like she had hit me with a sledgehammer. At one point I tried to reproduce the pain of a trigger point so that I could explain it to other people, and I had sustained a significant bruise. And so I pushed as hard as I could on this bruise, which was fresh, and it was almost to the level of a trigger point. Many years of going through that, figuring that I would rest when I was dead was my motto. Of course, my family's motto was, it'll feel better when it quits hurting. So I think that my fibromyalgia may be a hereditary thing, since both of my children have some components of fibromyalgia already, and they're only 22 and 26. This gets us to the point where I met my current husband. It's been 5.5 years, and in the first year and a half or so of spending time with him and dating. He actually did things for me. He cooked meals. I had a hot meal made with real food for the first time, and that's kind of where my story is going to start in terms of what I did next. So look for the next video, which I'll tape right now, but I'm past my 5-minute mark. I'll see you in a bit.